The golden light of sunset painted the Colorado mountains in shades of amber and rose as Eleanor Harlow climbed the final steps to the weathered porch. At 43, her body still moved with the practiced efficiency of her ranger training, but her eyes, deep blue pools shadowed by loss, betrayed the weight she carried. The cabin before her, purchased for a mere $5, represented her last chance at something like peace. 2 years. 2 years since the rain-slicked highway had taken Richard and Sophie from her in a single moment of screeching metal and shattered glass. 2 years of empty rooms echoing with phantom laughter and a bed that remained half cold no matter how many blankets she piled on. She paused, hand hovering over the brass doorknob as the mountain breeze stirred her silver-streaked chestnut hair. The cabin was exactly as described in the strange letter that had arrived 3 months ago. Sturdy logs with dovetailed corners, a stone chimney rising like a sentinel against the darkening sky, windows that reflected the dying sun like pools of fire. But something wasn't right. The door hung slightly ajar, as if someone had left in a hurry, or perhaps had never truly left at all. "Hello?" Eleanor called, her voice carrying across the clearing and into the surrounding pines. Only the whisper of wind through needles answered her. The interior revealed a space neither abandoned nor truly empty. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, its hearth swept clean, but bearing the unmistakable char of recent use. Bookshelves lined another wall, volumes on geology and environmental science arranged with careful precision. A desk beneath the window held papers weighted against the mountain breeze, topographical surveys, geological assessments, handwritten notes in precise, educated script. Someone had lived here recently, someone who had departed with unusual haste. Movement in the shadows at the rear of the cabin caught her eye, a flicker of something substantial yet fluid. Eleanor froze, every sense heightened by years of wilderness training. From the darkness, a pair of amber eyes emerged, fixed on her with unnerving intelligence. The wolf stood in the doorway to what must be the bedroom, its massive gray form blocking the passage completely. Female, Eleanor noted automatically, her ranger's knowledge cataloging details even as her heart hammered against her ribs. Not young, judging by the silver threading through the dark fur along her muzzle, but powerful in her prime. The animal's ears were forward, attentive rather than flattened in aggression, her posture tense but not immediately threatening. "Easy," Eleanor whispered, keeping her voice low and steady. "I'm not here to hurt you." The wolf's response was unexpected, a slight tilt of her head, as if actually processing Eleanor's words. Behind her, soft whimpering sounds emerged from the bedroom. Cubs, of course. This wasn't just territorial behavior. This was maternal protection at its most primal. How are you enjoying the story so far? Where are you listening from tonight? If you're finding comfort in Eleanor's journey, please consider subscribing to hear more stories of women finding their strength in unexpected places. As the light faded from the sky outside, Eleanor remained motionless, memories washing over her like gentle waves, her grandfather's weathered hands guiding hers as they traced animal tracks in creek-bed mud. His voice rough as pine bark but warm as summer sun, teaching her the sacred responsibility that came with entering wild spaces. "We don't own the wilderness, Ellie," he'd say, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "We're just passing through. Show respect to its true guardians, and you'll never truly be alone out here." A soft whine from the doorway pulled her back to the present. The wolf hadn't moved, but something in her posture had shifted, a subtle relaxation around her eyes and muzzle. She was assessing Eleanor, just as Eleanor was assessing her. "We're going to have to find a way to coexist," Eleanor murmured. "I think someone sent me here for a reason, and I'm guessing it has something to do with what you're guarding." A sudden noise outside, the unmistakable crunch of tires on gravel, caused both woman and wolf to turn toward the windows. Headlights swept across the clearing as three black SUVs pulled up before the cabin, their engines cutting simultaneously with military precision. Eleanor moved swiftly to the window, staying back from the glass as her grandfather had taught her. 6 men emerged from the vehicles, their expensive outdoor gear too pristine, too new. These weren't hikers or casual visitors. They moved with coordinated purpose, spreading out to cover the approaches to the cabin. The leader, silver-haired and straight-backed, scanned the structure with the calculating gaze of someone used to assessing threats and opportunities. "Perimeter secure," one of the men reported. "No vehicle on site. Tracks indicate single occupant arrived on foot within the last hour." "Proceed with caution," the silver-haired man responded, his voice carrying clearly in the mountain air. "Marshall's dead, but we need to confirm the transfer was clean. Check the foundation markers again." A chill that had nothing to do with the mountain evening settled into Eleanor's bones. Benjamin Marshall, the name signed to the letter and deed that had brought her here. Dead. And these men had something to do with it. The wolf had retreated further into the shadows, her cubs now silent behind her. But she hadn't fled, and her amber eyes reflected an intelligence that seemed to understand the danger approaching from outside. A strange thought occurred to Eleanor. This creature wasn't just a random occupant. She was as much a guardian of this place as she was a squatter. Moving with deliberate quiet, Eleanor crossed to the desk and began gathering the papers, searching for anything that might explain why she was here and what these men wanted. Beneath a topographical map, she found a wooden box, beautifully carved from cherry wood with dovetailed corners that reminded her painfully of Richard's craftsmanship. The latch gave way with a soft click, revealing documents, photographs, and handwritten notes wrapped in protective plastic. On top lay a letter addressed simply, "To Eleanor Harlow, when the time comes." Her fingers trembled as she broke the seal. The handwriting matched the notes on the desk. Precise, educated, confident. "Miss Harlow, if you're reading this, they've found me. The mineral deposits beneath this mountain could revolutionize clean energy production, but Alpine Resources' extraction methods would devastate this entire range. I've documented everything: the illegal operations, the environmental destruction, the offshore accounts. They've killed to protect these secrets. I chose you carefully. Your ranger background, your personal losses, your need for isolation, all make you the perfect guardian for what I've discovered. Trust no one, especially those who knew you before. Check beneath the loose floorboard by the fireplace. What you find there will explain everything." Benjamin Marshall. The wolf moved suddenly, padding silently to the window. Outside, the men were approaching the cabin, weapons now visible in their hands. Eleanor and the wolf locked eyes, an unspoken understanding passing between them. The danger facing them was mutual, the choice before them shared. Eleanor moved to the fireplace, quickly locating the loose board. It lifted easily, revealing a dark passage and the smell of earth and stone. A cellar hidden beneath the cabin's seemingly simple structure. The wolf watched her intently, making no move to stop her. "I'm going to see what Benjamin was protecting," Eleanor whispered. "You keep watching them." As if understanding, the wolf turned back to the window, her posture alert but controlled, a sentinel guarding against the approaching threat. Have you ever found strength in unexpected places, in moments when life pushed you to your limits? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's continue with Eleanor's discovery. The cellar was more than Eleanor had expected. A fully equipped laboratory carved from the living rock of the mountain. Professional-grade geological survey equipment lined one wall, while another held glass cases containing rock samples, each carefully labeled with coordinates and dates. Filing cabinets stood in neat rows, their contents organized with meticulous precision. But it was what stood at the center of the room that took her breath away. A three-dimensional model of the mountain range, showing what appeared to be mineral deposits threading through the rock like veins of blue fire. Rare earth elements, according to the legend. Essential components for next-generation renewable energy technology. A fortune buried in the wilderness, a fortune worth killing for. The first cabinet yielded geological surveys and mineral analyses, technical documents that confirmed the extraordinary value of what lay beneath the mountain. The second held something far more disturbing: photographs showing environmental devastation at other alpine resources sites, stripped mountainsides, contaminated streams running orange with toxic runoff, dead wildlife littering once pristine valleys. The third cabinet contained what must have been Benjamin Marshall's insurance policy: detailed financial records showing a network of offshore accounts, shell companies, and bribes paid to government officials. Names she recognized from congressional hearings and environmental protection agencies. Men and women who had sworn to protect America's wilderness while secretly profiting from its destruction. A sudden thud from above made her freeze. They had entered the cabin. Heavy boots moved across the wooden floor, searching methodically. Then a low growl. The wolf still guarding her territory despite the armed men. Jesus, there's a wolf in here. Big one. Female, and she's got cubs from the sound of it. Can you get around her? Not unless you want to explain to the boss why one of us got mauled. Eleanor's heart raced. The wolf was buying her time, but for how long? These men hadn't come to talk. The power tool noise starting above confirmed her fears. They were cutting through the floor to access the cellar directly. The final drawer in the last cabinet contained what she least expected: a federal badge and identification card. Benjamin Marshall hadn't been a concerned citizen or environmental activist. He had been Special Agent Benjamin Marshall, FBI Environmental Crimes Task Force. This wasn't just about illegal mining or environmental destruction. This was about a conspiracy reaching into the highest levels of government. Next to the badge lay a manila folder with her name on it. Inside, a complete dossier on her life: her military service before joining the Park Service, psychological evaluations noting her resilience under pressure, financial records showing she couldn't be bought, and personal history indicating she had nothing left to lose. Benjamin hadn't chosen her randomly. He'd selected her based on specific qualifications that went beyond her ranger training. The final page in the folder was a handwritten note. They've killed 6 scientists and 3 other agents who got too close. I'm next. But Eleanor has everything she needs to finish what we started. The mountain must be protected at any cost. The power tool noise intensified, and dust began filtering down from above. She had minutes, maybe less. At the back of the cellar, partially hidden behind equipment, she discovered a metal cabinet containing weapons, rifles, ammunition, and communication equipment that looked military grade. Benjamin had prepared for war. A gunshot rang out above, followed by a yelp of pain that cut straight to Eleanor's heart. The wolf. They'd shot the wolf who had been protecting her cubs, and unknowingly protecting Eleanor as well. Grief crystallized into something harder, colder, more purposeful. These men had come to her mountain, threatened her sanctuary, and harmed a creature whose only crime was defending her family. The parallels to her own loss were too stark to ignore. Instead of fear, Eleanor felt a calm certainty settle over her. She'd lost everything once before. She wouldn't stand by and watch it happen to another mother, another family, another home. She grabbed a rifle, checking it with the practiced efficiency of her ranger training. The communication equipment yielded another surprise: a satellite phone with a single number programmed into it. She pressed the call button without hesitation. "Special Agent Collins," a woman's voice, terse and professional. "My name is Eleanor Harlow. Benjamin Marshall left instructions to contact you if anything happened to him." A pause. "We've been trying to reach Ben for weeks. Where are you?" "His cabin in the Colorado Rockies. Alpine Resources is here. They've already shot a wolf, and they're coming for me next. Stay on this frequency. Help is coming, but it'll take time. These people have resources we're still mapping. You need to survive until we can reach you." The power tool broke through the floorboards with a shower of splinters and dust. Eleanor ended the call and moved deeper into the cellar, searching for an exit Benjamin must have prepared. She found it behind a false rock wall, a narrow tunnel leading up and away from the cabin, emerging behind a natural rock outcropping 50 yards away. Eleanor paused at the tunnel entrance, torn between escape and something else, a responsibility to the injured wolf and her vulnerable cubs. Benjamin had chosen her for a reason. Perhaps this was it, the moment that would define whether she was truly the guardian he believed her to be. Have you ever had to choose between safety and doing what's right? Those moments define us, don't they? Stay with me as Eleanor faces her greatest test. From her hidden position among the rocks, Eleanor watched as Alpine Resources men swarmed the cabin. Through her binoculars, she could see them carrying out equipment and documents from the cellar, loading everything into their vehicles with practiced efficiency. There was no sign of the wolf or her cubs. Had they escaped into the forest? Or had the gunshot she heard been fatal? The thought sent a spike of grief through her heart, sharp and unexpected in its intensity. The satellite phone buzzed softly in her pocket. Harlow, Agent Collins. Our team is 30 minutes out. But there's a complication. What kind of complication? Someone's activated military protocols to lock down your entire area. No civilian aircraft allowed within 10 miles. Someone with serious government connections is trying to contain whatever's happening there. The radio equipment Eleanor had brought from the cellar crackled to life, apparently tuned to Alpine Resources frequency. Base, this is Team 3. We have the Marshall evidence, but there's another problem. The property transfer to Harlow was legitimate. She may have accessed the information before we arrived. A new voice responded, one that sent ice through Eleanor's veins. A voice she knew intimately, one that had consoled her after Richard and Sophie's deaths, offered her leave time to grieve, checked on her regularly during the worst days of her despair. Understood, Team 3. What's your recommendation? Full cleanup protocol, Director Campbell. Make it look like an accident, perhaps a wildlife attack. Approved. Complete your sample collection and sanitize the site. We can't afford loose ends. Thomas Campbell, her mentor, the man who'd been like a father to her during her 15 years with the Park Service, the man who'd held her while she sobbed at her family's funeral. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined, reopening wounds she'd thought had begun to heal. If Thomas was involved, how high did this conspiracy reach? How many others she trusted were part of it? Movement in the underbrush drew her attention. The wolf emerged from the shadows, her gray coat darkened with blood along one shoulder. She moved with careful determination, clearly injured but far from defeated. Behind her, 3 cubs followed in a wary line, their small bodies tense with fear, but obedient to their mother's guidance. The wolf paused, amber eyes finding Eleanor's hiding place with uncanny precision. She didn't approach, but neither did she retreat. Instead, she turned her gaze toward the cabin and the men desecrating it. Her message couldn't have been clearer if she'd spoken aloud. What are you going to do about this? Eleanor checked the rifle Benjamin had left her, then the satellite phone showing the approaching FBI team's position. 30 minutes. She needed to slow Alpine Resources down, give the FBI time to arrive before Thomas and his men destroyed everything Benjamin had died to protect. The wolf seemed to sense her decision. Without sound or signal, she began moving toward the vehicles, her cubs remaining hidden in the underbrush where she'd left them. Eleanor followed at a distance, 2 hunters sharing purpose, if not method. From the surrounding forest, a sound rose that made even the armed men pause in their work. The howling of wolves, not one but many, echoing off the canyon walls. The local pack, responding to the injured mother's presence, or perhaps drawn by the gunshot that had wounded her. The Alpine Resources men clustered closer together, suddenly aware that they were not the only predators on this mountain. The wolf used their distraction, slipping between the vehicles with ghostly silence despite her injury. Eleanor watched in amazement as the animal systematically disabled each SUV, teeth puncturing tires, claws ripping through exposed wiring with surgical precision. This was no ordinary wolf. This was an animal with an understanding that went beyond instinct, one that had perhaps learned from observing the very humans who now threatened her home. Eleanor's radio crackled again. Team 3, this is base. Satellite shows federal vehicles approaching your location. Thermal charge deployment authorized. You have 15 minutes to clear the area. Thermal charges. They were going to burn the entire mountain rather than let the evidence fall into federal hands. Everything Benjamin had discovered, the cabin, the wildlife, the pristine wilderness, all would be reduced to ash. Eleanor moved without conscious thought, her ranger training taking over. She activated the emergency beacon Benjamin had hidden among the equipment, broadcasting their location on federal frequencies. Then she sighted down the rifle barrel, focusing on the fuel tanks of the nearest SUV. The shot echoed across the mountain like thunder. The explosion that followed turned night into day for one brilliant moment, sending Alpine Resources personnel scrambling for cover. She fired again, disabling their communications array with her second shot. Chaos erupted below. The wolf used the confusion to continue her sabotage, while from the forest edge, more wolves appeared, a dozen gray shadows moving with coordinated purpose. Not attacking, but herding, pushing the men away from their vehicles and toward the narrow canyon that offered their only escape route. "Base, we're under attack! Wildlife, an unknown shooter!" Thomas Campbell's voice came through clearly despite the damaged equipment. "Get out of there now! Thermal deployment in 12 minutes!" The men abandoned their equipment and evidence, fleeing toward the canyon path. They didn't realize they were being channeled exactly where the wolf pack wanted them, into a natural trap where steep walls would prevent escape on either side. Eleanor moved swiftly through the forest, paralleling their retreat. She needed to reach the canyon's far end before they did, needed to hold them there until the FBI team arrived. The satellite phone showed Agent Collins' team just 8 minutes out now, but the thermal charges would deploy in 12. It would be close. At the canyon's mouth, she took up position on a rocky outcropping, rifle ready. Below, the wolf pack had the men contained, circling just beyond weapon range, occasionally darting forward to snap at legs or arms before retreating. Not killing, just controlling. The injured mother wolf appeared beside Eleanor, settling on the rocks with the watchful patience of a born hunter. Together they observed the trapped men, 2 females protecting what was theirs from those who would destroy it. "Eleanor!" Thomas Campbell's voice carried up from below. He stood apart from his men, arms spread in a gesture of surrender. "I know you're up there. We need to talk." "We're past talking, Thomas." Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, harder, colder than she remembered it being. "You don't understand what's at stake. The minerals in this mountain could make America energy independent. Think of the good that could do. At what cost? More dead agents? More destroyed wilderness? More families like mine, grieving while you profit?" His face changed, the mask of fatherly concern dropping away to reveal something harder beneath. "Your family's accident was unfortunate, but necessary. Richard knew too much about our water quality surveys. He was going to report us." The world seemed to stop spinning. "What did you just say?" "It wasn't personal, Eleanor. Richard was going to expose operations that were vital to national security. Sophie was collateral damage. I tried to protect you afterward, gave you time off, checked on you. I was trying to save you." The rifle in Eleanor's hands felt suddenly heavier. All this time she'd believed a drunk driver had taken her family, but it had been murder. Calculated, cold-blooded murder orchestrated by the man she'd trusted most. "You killed my family." Each word fell like stone. "I gave the order," Thomas admitted. "For the greater good." The wolf beside Eleanor growled low in her throat, as if understanding the magnitude of his confession. In the distance, helicopter rotors became audible. The FBI team, almost there. Thomas checked his watch. 8 minutes until thermal deployment. "You need to decide, Eleanor. Join us and live, or stay on this mountain and burn with Benjamin's evidence." The mother wolf rose to her feet, amber eyes fixed on the man who threatened her home, her cubs, her future. Eleanor felt something settle in her chest, a certainty that transcended fear or doubt. I already decided, Thomas. I decided the moment I found what Benjamin left for me. She raised the satellite phone. Agent Collins, do you copy? We copy, Eleanor. 3 minutes out. We're receiving your evidence transmission now. Thomas's face contorted with rage. What transmission? Eleanor smiled grimly. Benjamin's satellite uplink has been broadcasting everything from the moment I activated it. Your confession, your orders, everything. The thermal charge countdown continued mercilessly in the background of the radio chatter. 5 minutes to deployment. Abort the deployment, Thomas ordered into his radio. Authorization Campbell Delta 73. Unable to comply, came the response. Authorization overridden by higher authority. What higher authority? Thomas demanded. Mine. A new voice broke in. Female. Commanding. This is Director Catherine Wright, FBI. Thomas Campbell, you are relieved of duty, effective immediately. All Alpine Resources personnel are ordered to stand down. The FBI helicopters appeared over the ridge, spotlights pinning the trapped men in brilliant circles of light. As agents rappelled down to secure the scene, Eleanor felt the tension drain from her body, leaving behind an exhaustion so profound she could barely remain upright. The mother wolf pressed briefly against her leg, a fleeting contact, there and gone in an instant, before melting back into the forest where her cubs waited. Their eyes met one final time, amber to blue, an understanding passing between them that needed no words. 6 months later, Eleanor stood on the ridge overlooking what was now officially designated as the Marshall Wildlife Preserve. The cabin had been rebuilt, expanded to serve as a research center for sustainable mining practices and renewable energy development. The mountain's valuable minerals would still be extracted, but using methods that preserved rather than destroyed the surrounding wilderness. From her position, she could see the wolf pack moving through the valley below. The mother, her cubs now half-grown, and the larger extended family that had helped defend their territory. They kept their distance from the humans working at the research station, but occasionally the mother would appear on this same ridge, watching Eleanor with those intelligent amber eyes. Two mothers who had lost everything, found purpose in protecting something larger than themselves. Eleanor touched the locket at her throat, the one containing photos of Richard and Sophie. Their killers had been brought to justice. Thomas Campbell and 17 other officials were serving life sentences, while Alpine Resources had been dissolved, its assets funding environmental restoration projects across the country. Benjamin Marshall had chosen well when he'd selected her as his successor. He'd seen in her what she hadn't been able to see in herself, the strength to begin again, to fight for something that mattered, to find meaning in protection rather than loss. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the mountains in shades of amber and rose, the mother wolf appeared at the forest edge. She paused, her pack waiting behind her, and looked directly at Eleanor, not with fear or aggression, but with the quiet acknowledgement of a kindred spirit. Eleanor nodded in return. They would never be friends in the conventional sense. The wolf was wild and would remain so. But they were connected now by something deeper than friendship, by purpose, by protection, by the understanding that some things were worth fighting for, even when you'd lost everything else. As darkness settled over the mountain, Eleanor turned toward the lights of the research center, while the wolf led her family into the shadows of the forest, two guardians of the wilderness, each following her own path home.